A. This is an interview with Luc Dubois, a worker in a non-profit organization.
Welcome to the program. Today, I'm interviewing Luc Dubois. It's great to have you with us, Luc.
Well, it's great to be here.
So, I understand that you had a career in business before starting to work at a charity.
Yes, after I graduated college, I got hired at a trading company and worked there for about 5 years. I actually enjoyed it for the most part. But then, one year, the company decided to partner with a nonprofit, and we employees were encouraged to volunteer our time. We were working with an organization that supports refugees, and we helped the NPO with fundraising, as well as organizing events for refugees who had settled in our city. I found it to be extremely rewarding, and I actually applied for a job at the NPO. It's called the Hampton Refugee Partnership, or HRP, and I've been working there for the past 3 years.
So, have you noticed a lot of differences between working at an ordinary company and working at an NPO?
Yes, of course. I'd say the main difference is that I need to be a bit more versatile, as I'm often called on to work outside my specific job description. Officially, I'm a research analyst, and my job is to analyze and review data. But, for example, last week, I suddenly got asked to help draft a press release. I was quite astonished by the day-to-day variation at first, but I really enjoy the challenge and stimulation. And of course, there's a great deal of job satisfaction. Despite being a data analyst, I have a lot of chances to interact with our clients on a regular basis, which is extremely rewarding.
So, are there any downsides to the job?
Well, yes, but it's probably not the one most people expect. My family was quite concerned that I was going to have to take a pay cut, but actually, the compensation is about the same as at my previous job. There does tend to be a lot of bureaucracy, though. We're partially supported by the government, so there are a lot of regulations that we have to deal with, and there are endless reports to be filled out. And I find that we're slower to adapt to situations than a normal company as well.
And do you have any advice for people who may be considering working for an NPO?
Well, I'd say that it does take a certain kind of person. As I mentioned, it can be very rewarding, but there are definitely challenges that you need to be able to overcome. There aren't always clear benchmarks when you work at a charity, and when there are, they can be hard to achieve. Last year, we failed to achieve our fundraising target, and that meant that we had to cut back on some of our services. So you need to be able to maintain your focus even when things are difficult. And I've heard stories from my coworkers about people who got burned out and had to leave. But if you're flexible and keep in mind that you're really making a difference in people's lives, it's absolutely an occupation that I'd recommend. There's nothing like the feeling of satisfaction you get when you see a family that was poor and struggling with a new culture start to thrive as a result of the help that your organization has given them.
Thanks for sharing these insights with us today, Luc.
Thanks for having me.
Questions. Number 1. What was surprising to Luc about his job at the NPO? Number 2. What does Luc say is a negative aspect of working at an NPO?
B. This is an interview with Gail Anderson, a guidebook writer.
Welcome to the program. Today I'm interviewing Gail Anderson. Thanks for joining us, Gail.
Thanks for having me.
So, how did you become a guidebook writer?
Well, it was purely accidental. I originally came to Japan as an English teacher, and I had quite a bit of time on my hands, so I started writing a blog as a hobby. It attracted the attention of an English language magazine, and they asked me to write some features about various locations that would appeal to tourists. Then the editor was contacted by a Japanese publisher that was interested in producing a guidebook for foreigners, and he recommended me to them.
A lot of people have an image of being a guidebook writer as quite a glamorous occupation. Is that accurate?
Well, it is wonderful to have your travel expenses covered, but we really do earn our money. When I'm on the road, I work about 100 hours every week. You have to be up at the crack of dawn to check out breakfast places, and then you're also expected to cover the nightlife, so it can be exhausting. And for me, the most challenging aspect of the job is the extreme emphasis on accuracy. In particular, I found updating maps to be a nightmare because I have a poor sense of direction, and I'm not really a visual person. If you slip up on one address or mark something in an incorrect location, it can have huge consequences for both the readers and the publisher, so you need to triple and quadruple check everything.
Is there anything that our listeners might find surprising about being a guidebook writer?
Well, one thing that never occurred to me at first is that you need to do everything as anonymously as possible. You can't stay in every hotel, particularly in these days of shrinking publishing budgets. So, you need to go around in the afternoon and get people to show you rooms. But unfortunately, business owners tend to exaggerate or show you things that don't really represent their business accurately if they know you're working for a guidebook. So it's best to pretend to be a potential customer. Also, since I can't eat at every restaurant, I talk to patrons at various places without telling them my occupation so I can get honest opinions about the food.
Interesting. So, has technology influenced your job a lot?
Absolutely. It's been sort of a double-edged sword, though. On the one hand, it makes preparing for a trip and booking flights much easier, and it's a godsend for fact-checking. On the other hand, though, it's had an adverse effect on the guidebook market overall. People are increasingly relying on travel websites, so it's had a negative impact on guidebook sales and also on the budgets that the companies have to allocate to writers like me. When I was recently updating a guidebook on Japan, I was unable to visit some of the out-of-the-way locations that were covered in the last edition due to lack of budget. So the editor and I had to make some difficult decisions. We ended up omitting a couple of places, and I ended up telephoning a couple of places to confirm that the information from the previous edition was still accurate. However, I think that guidebooks still have a lot to offer readers, even in the digital age, because all the work that we do to ensure accuracy makes us more reliable than websites and travel forums.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your experiences with us today, Gail.
It was my pleasure.
Questions. Number 3. What does Gail say has been the most difficult thing about being a guidebook writer? Number 4. What is one thing Gail does when gathering information?